Hello everybody, James Rink here. Welcome to Super Soldier Talk. It is January 25th, 2017, and today I have Cynthia Crawford with us, and she is the ET Sculptor, starseed aficionado. She's had many experiences with extraterrestrial beings and as well as the shadow government who have tried to assassinate her or kill her. And certainly she can explain some of that. Cynthia, are you there?
I'm here.
Great. Thank you for joining us. So this is actually round two because we've attempted to do this before and it didn't work out as planned. But it's always better late than never. So I have copies of the transcripts of your last interview. And you certainly talked about a lot of interesting points, especially about what you foresee taking place in our future. So could you just go ahead and explain, why don't you give the audience a little background information about yourself, and then just go ahead and just jump into wherever you want to start on that.
Okay. Well, first of all, I was born a twin. But unlike my twin, I had totally different blood type and tissue type. We were not compatible. And I know that sounds strange, excepting when by the time we were 5 years old, my twin sister had been diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. And that's how they found out that we were not compatible, because they wanted to take muscle tissue from my legs. I had incredible muscles, and they wanted to put it in her legs. So that's how I found out. And then it was in my 30s that my father told me that he worked on a top secret project when he was in the Army back in the early 50s, and this was when he was sent to Korea. My father told me then that I had to know that I'm a hybrid, and I had no idea because I had never heard of the term, and back when I was young, very few people knew anything about extraterrestrials, let alone the different races in the universe. Nobody would talk about it. So when I asked him being a hybrid, how this happened, and a simple explanation is, my father was approached by some men that worked for the OSS, which became CIA eventually. And they knew he had been in the service before, and they also had information on his background. And my father's side of the family came from Germany. And they asked my father, when they found out he was going to medical school, if he would go to work on a top secret project, and for that, and also allow his wife, my mother, to be impregnated with a hybrid. They wanted to observe the difference in hybrids, that this time they were trying to make superhumans with extra powers. And I did have extra powers when I was younger, but I stopped using them because I got disciplined so much, and also told, because my mother was very devout Christian, and when I could do things that my sisters couldn't do, she would say that that was the devil in me. So I eventually completely tried to stay away from using any powers because I was afraid it made me different. But it wasn't until I was actually in my teens when I became even more aware, even though I had had visits from extraterrestrials before then, and I had been taken to underground bases that were military bases where they would experiment on me and try to find out what powers I had. And I have to admit, I was a big baby, and they couldn't get me to follow orders, so they gave up on me, which is a good thing, actually. But then, again, when I was in my teens, I began going on ships a lot, and it would scare me because I had nobody to talk to about why this was happening, and I couldn't stop it. You know, and I'm sure you've had that sensation too, where all of a sudden you're aware that you're being pulled up through the roof of the house and into a bright light above you into a ship. So I was never allowed to remember why I was on the ship or who I was, not until in my 20s when the ships would land, literally land, near where I lived. I lived in this one house when I was in my early 20s where the back, or at the back of the house butted up against a field. And in 1975, I had the experience of waking up outside near a big round burn spot, and I didn't know how in the world I got there. Although I used to wake up in the middle of the night watching the ships in the field, and my husband at that time used to be very upset with me because he didn't know anything about ships, didn't believe in that, and I was just a nutcase. So eventually, I also had several missing pregnancies, and I also had a lot of health issues being a hybrid. And when I was a child, I went into comas a lot. And then as I got older, it got a little bit better, but I still have health issues when it comes to like the lungs and my bones. My bones are, because I'm only 28% Zeta, but my bones are different than human bones. And when I had an accident in 94 and I had a shattered bone, they put implants, radiated human implants in me, and I would reject them because my bones wouldn't grow to those bones. They're totally different, in being porous and so forth. What else did I have? I also had, back in the 90s, and had to have a surgery and from that accident. And when they went in, the doctor found that my organs were growing in the opposite direction that human organs grow. In other words, my whole intestinal tract and so forth was opposite. And so the doctor wanted to do me a favor because she didn't know. And I didn't know I was a hybrid. I knew I was a hybrid, but I didn't believe it. And I didn't want anything to do with it because I had nobody to help me understand. So I couldn't very well tell her, well, my father said I'm a hybrid. That's why I'm different. So she went ahead and restrung everything like a human. And that took a few years for my body to adjust to it. Anyway, and then...
Well, she gave you surgery? They rebuilt you?
Yeah, I had to have, because I was hit by a car while I was walking across the street, and I had many broken bones throughout my body, and I also hit my head when I landed because I was thrown 75 feet out into a different street. So it was a kind of a traumatic experience. I had most of my face was cut off of me by the glass in the car, but I turned out okay. I'm not perfect, but you know what? I function, and that's what's important.
Okay, certainly.
Go ahead.
Now, was there any other parts of your past you would like to share with the audience before we start talking about the future?
Well, yeah, when I was 16, I woke up outside about a little over a block away from where I lived, and I could see the shadow from the street light of a tall, what I thought was a person behind me, and it scared me because, first of all, I didn't remember going outside, but that used to happen a lot when I'd go on the ships. I never knew where I was going to wake up or be found. And when I turned around, it was a being with what looked like a brownish black hooded cape, and he was very tall and slender. It just so happened that in my late 40s, I began making sculptures because that was part of my mission, and I didn't know it at the time. I just thought I was making them to remember the experiences I had had with these different beings. And instead, what happened was I began going into trance at times where I would make sculptures of beings I had never experienced. And I would have to ask them, why did I make it? You know, it's kind of a strange feeling when all of a sudden you black out and you wake up and you've got a sculpture all made and you don't remember doing it. And then my guides, the only thing they would say is those who know them will tell you. And sure enough, when I would take those sculptures to the conferences, people would recognize them and tell me of their experiences, some of where they were from, and so forth. I didn't find out until years later that there was a reason for making these sculptures, that they said, I channel an aspect of each of the beings when I make the sculptures, and that aspect goes into the sculptures to assist the starseed and also for activating their DNA. Now, one of the things I didn't know until I had conscious contact with the council, the Galactic Federation Council, was that every one of us starseeds that are on Earth now, that volunteered for this mission Earth, every one of us made a DNA strand, our own DNA strand that was put in our body, one DNA strand that contains our full mission, along with the timeline that we selected where we were supposed to meet up with certain people and remember certain things and times when things were going to be activated. Now, what's interesting is we starseeds didn't come here alone. We either came with a partner or we came with a team. And if we haven't found them by now, we will find them very soon. It's happening now. Because what this Galactic Federation is saying now is that we have to start using our power source that's programmed in to our DNA strand. But we also have to be able to work really diligently every day in working with our light and unconditional love, which also protects us.
Explain how, as we're going into the future, why we need to tap into our power source, and how will that help us in the future?
Okay, that's really good. And like I said, I recently found out about this power source, but it wasn't until I had conscious contact with the council and some of the, the different federations as well as the alliances. But now the power source, every single one of us starseeds have certain abilities. We were not allowed to remember it when we came in, but some of us are remembering it. And many of us have had dreams about using some of these abilities, but didn't know why we were dreaming. And those are called triggers. And they will trigger us as well and help us have these dreams to remember. But the power source are things such as being able to remote view, and even beyond remote viewing. Not like what we do here on Earth. It's even much better and stronger, and you can go anywhere into the universe with your remote viewing and so forth. But
Is that what you refer to as jumping dimensions?
Well, jumping dimensions is the ability to jump from, let's say, for example, the third dimension to maybe the fifth dimension. Let's say if we were in a situation where, or you were in a situation where you're leading a group of people to the ships, and all of a sudden there are military personnel looking for you, trying to stop you. Or maybe there are some rogue groups of aliens, because we are going to have a lot of rogue alien groups coming here. We've already got some, and there's more that's on their way. Okay?
Or what about super soldier armies that are being cloned?
Yes. Well, okay, so let me explain first of all that when we have the ability to jump dimensions, would be like if they were trying to catch us, we, starseeds, have the ability to actually envelop the entire group. If you're leading a group to a ship, envelop the entire group and bring them, jump with them into a higher dimension where they cannot be seen in this third dimension. So that's jumping. There's also bilocating, where you can bilocate, and again, you can do it with others, so it's not just by yourself if you have to. And you can go from one place, like where you're at right now in North Carolina, and maybe you need to be in Turkey, and you would do that. A lot of us bilocate at night and don't even know we do it. And the only reason I say that is it happened to me when the Blue Lady assisted me in remembering how I go to Turkey and work with the villagers in Turkey. All of us have more than one.
Are you physically bilocating?
That's a good question, because I didn't know, and what it is that we go into another body when we bilocate, because I started getting emails from a few people in Turkey that had recognized me and said, you have been coming into our villages talking to us about the star people and how to recognize them and when they were coming and so forth. And at first I thought there was something wrong with these people. You know, I thought, my gosh, there's a lot of mass hallucinations. And then the Blue Lady decided it was time I knew the truth. So she took me and allowed me to remember. And oh my God, it was awesome. So I would have to say I am in the physical, because, and I wish I could explain a little bit more, because I actually not only see myself, but they see me, and they have told me how they have recognized me.
Okay.
So, but you do as well.
I do that as well?
Well, you travel beyond what you do here on Earth. I mean, you do other things. There are other missions that you have, and you may not remember it, but I'm sure that even at nighttime, you will notice that there are times when you wake up in the morning and you feel like you've been somewhere, and sometimes your body will ache, you know, really bad.
Oh, that's like almost every day for me. Recently something showed up in my profile. It said I had 1,800 alien eggs, reptilian alien eggs. How do you explain that?
I'm not quite sure what they mean by
18
reptilian.
1,800 reptilian alien eggs. Apparently, I must have been doing some breeding. Okay, let's change the topic.
Okay, so what it is that you actually, okay, so a lot of people judge as if all reptilians are bad, and we have to stop this, because the truth is we've got some of the most awesome benevolent reptilians that I've even experienced, and that are so loving and so absolutely incredible. You know, I'm sure you know Jojoli Kunta, who's reptilian hybrid here on Earth, and there's several others I've met, and they're fabulous. They're beautiful people. And even in the book about the hybrids, there's another woman, Charlemagne, that lives in England, and she's absolutely gorgeous person inside out, who's reptilian. So I would say that's okay that you have that 1,800. My gosh, because
I would assume they probably eat most of the young that's inferior, or have them aborted. Is that typically what reptilians do to their youth, their babies?
Well, not always, but I know that they do. They can, but that you're talking about those that are more the the negative races, but the benevolent races wouldn't do that. So you've got, like, for example, the reptilians and draconian races that are on Earth in human form. They do that in their ceremonies, and they have done that for thousands of years, and we can even see it in a lot of the archaeological finds that they've been coming up with the paintings and and sculptures and everything. And it's sad. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, because this is one of the things that the alliances had told me when I met with them, that they're really worried about. You know, many of their people with different alliances, they may be humanoid as far as having arms and legs like a human does, but that may be the only part that's humanoid, because their appearance and their their chemistry and so forth is totally different from human. But they're concerned because this is what's been happening, and I know you've heard about it, and I didn't realize this until they told me. We've heard about Pizzagate, right? Pizzagate? Well, I didn't realize this, but a lot of the Illuminati, they seek out the children, mostly the star children, because they have such incredible powers that they feel that empowers them more. So that's one of the other things.
Can you explain a little bit about Pizzagate, just briefly, for those who don't know, or if you like, I can?
I'd rather you do it. It's a very sensitive subject for me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I'd rather you explain it.
Yeah, so there's a pizza parlor in Washington, D.C. that had this logo in it. It looked like a triangle that kind of turned in on itself, and that is a symbol of pedophiles like to use. So it was it was in the company logo, and apparently there was some emails exchanged which had some keywords in it that was associated with pedophilia. And I believe the Clinton Foundation was attached to it, or the Clintons was connected with that group. They're high level individuals associated with that. Of course, the media is trying to poo-poo it, but I believe it actually did take place.
It did.
And by the way, they did change the logo, so now it looks like a triangle, not a triangle turned in on itself, but it's still a triangle. I guess they're trying to save face, but hopefully that place will be going out of business soon. And what they did, they'll be maybe thrown in jail too.
Well, I wish we've got, and it's really sad, how many of our own government people, actually around the world, that are involved in this. It is shocking how many are involved in this, and I'm sad because what they do is they use them in sexual ceremonies, but they also, when they have babies, they also eat the babies, and they believe that this gives them even greater power. So one of the things that the alliances and the Federation asked me to do was to make sure the starseeds know how to protect themselves, and that they're protecting their children so that they cannot be used for this. We've got to also make sure that we teach these children how to use their powers, because oftentimes when they come in, now the ones more recently that have been coming in the last 10 years have had more of their memory when they come in, but not all of them have. So every one of us, every single starseed on this planet needs to get into their power and needs to help others. And if you have children, you need to teach them how to protect themselves and how to be in their powers. The other thing about the power source, now there's so many things. There's like, oh my gosh, literally with the power source, we have the ability not only to heal, but also we have energy that comes out of our hands, and we can manipulate that energy to put up shields around ourselves and others. There's so much more we can do. A lot of us, if we pay attention to these movies that have been made where they show the beings with all these incredible powers, and there's also Netflix has a series called The Travelers, about time travelers. When you see the powers these people have, these are like our powers. We truly have them. We cannot deny them. We have to stop thinking that we're just normal, and we have this desire to have contact, but we don't realize who we truly are. We've got to start believing in ourselves because we need to protect those powers. If we get a leak in the power source, what it does, now imagine, you know what an aura looks like around your body when you've had aura pictures taken? Well, power source is similar to the aura because it goes all the way around your body. When you have a power source leak, the fourth dimensional beings and the negative beings on Earth, I mean those that are incarnated into human bodies so that you wouldn't be able to detect them as being draconian and things like that. And it's really interesting because we have one of the guys that does hypnosis. I'm trying to remember his name. He's very negative, talks about all this horrible stuff that happens. David Jacobs, I believe. David Jacobs is draconian. And what I mean by that was we were at a conference and he was speaking, and I happened to be sitting at a table with some other people right beside him. And all of a sudden I looked over and I noticed his spine. And this was something I was taught a couple years ago, how to recognize the draconians in the human body. And you know what the velociraptors look like. So a lot of the draconians will look a little bit more like that. And if if the audience goes onto the internet and they're not sure what they look like, there's several different kinds of pictures of different races of them. But they have a spine in which they have a hump, usually at the top of their back or the base of their neck. And it's a hump, and it looks almost like the spine is curved, almost rounded. So think of a velociraptor and so forth. That's the way it looks. But what happens is if we get a leak in the power source, they can see it, and they know how to take our power from us. And what happens is if they take our power from us, we can't do anything, and then we have to reactivate that power. It's very confusing. It's very difficult for a person when they've had their power sucked from them. I've heard from several people where they've been around certain ones that they cling on to them like, oh, we're best friends type thing. And yet when they're around these people that claim to be their best friend, they feel weak. And they also get made in fun of for their beliefs in UFOs and ETs. So they'll say, oh, come on, you can't be that stupid. So I've had a lot of people who have had what we call attachments, and I don't mean the attachments that jump onto your back, that type of an attachment, but where the draconian reptilian that has incarnated in human form have attached either through family or through friends or through marriage. And with those that I've talked to that have been in that situation where they've finally realized that the other person in their life is keeping them out of their power. And especially you'll hear one of the things, I get really tired, I can barely stay awake when I'm around this person. Or I feel almost insecure, and they lose their self-esteem because they're pulling so many of them. So the best way that the starseeds can handle that and protect their power source is to practice and do this all the time now, because they need it now. And that is to put the white light around them at all times, keep it around them. And with people that come to them, whether they happen to come in front of them, or if they happen to see them at a distance, what they need to do is always put the white light around the other person and send unconditional love from their heart chakra into theirs. And that does two things. If the person is negative, it will cause them to lose any power over that starseed. If the person is another starseed, what it does is it amps their power up. So you can't lose by using it. But the more you use it, the more you begin activating your power. Now that DNA strand that you designed, if your power source hasn't been fully activated by the time certain events happen, your council will activate it for you. And I've had some people just this last week that told me that they started doing bilocating, and they also started jumping dimensions. And they said they had, at first, it was such a shock when they jumped into another dimension that was hard to believe. But the more they did it, the easier it became. So we need to reactivate those. But we have to always be conscious that there's going to be the dark side around us no matter where we go. And they know who we are. And they will try to keep us from our power. And we have to be in our power by making sure they don't take it. We have to love them even more unconditionally so that they can't do that. The greatest power in the universe is unconditional love anyway, in the white light. So that was one.
So would you consider these psychic vampires the same as a handler?
Yes, absolutely. And several of the starseeds have realized they're handlers. Many of them are men that have married these starseed women. Some of them are actually, a few men that I've met were married to women handlers. So, or maybe even had a significant other, that was a handler. And the way we find out who's the handler is they will not be supportive of us, or they will make fun of us, or they will try to get us to be negative. The more we feed into resentment, anger, hatred, anything like that, that causes the leak in our power source, and they can drain our power from us. So we can't afford to do that now. We have to stop resenting, and I have to work on it big time, because there's times when I have that problem myself. If somebody pisses me off, I get very resentful, and I can't allow it. I've got to stop that.
Now, what if your partner does not believe anything about UFOs and aliens, and suddenly you just had an awakening? What would you advise in that situation? Should they leave this partner, or should they just try to keep educating them? Maybe show them videos. Maybe have them show them Super Soldier Talk, or some of your videos, Cynthia, interviews. What do you suggest?
Well, I would suggest, first of all, to be honest and open to that person that I've had dreams. All of a sudden I am interested in this and I want to pursue it more. I would like you to also be supportive of me. If they're making fun of you or they do things, and I will say that one of the women that I knew had this situation, and her partner was so negative and kept making fun of her that she had to always sneak to make phone calls when she wanted to talk to me, because otherwise her partner would really put her down. And I said, I'm sorry, you can't live that way. You have somebody else out there waiting for you, but you cannot be with this person. She will not allow you to be in your power. So sure enough, she finally, within 2 months, they split up, and wouldn't you know it, she found another starseed. It was awesome. And they have a phenomenal relationship now. And this is the other thing the star people are saying right now. Find your partner. Find your team. And you will recognize them. You feel it in your heart. You feel that there is a connection. And start bonding with them, because you're going to be working. Like last week, I had a phone call from a woman that her husband was there on the phone conversation, and another couple, and they hadn't known the couple all that long, but they had become good friends. And when I'm talking to them, all of a sudden the council was telling me, they said that there is a pilot in the group. And so I asked them, I said, I'm being told that one of you has either flown planes or taken flying lessons, but regardless, you have your ship near you. And one of the guys that was in this conversation, it was like a conference call, and he spoke up and he said, I took flying lessons. I was interested in it, but I just couldn't pursue it. It was an expensive type job or thing for him to be involved in. But he said, I've had that feeling. And I said, good, you're the captain of the ship. And then I said, and then one of you has exceptional powers in your hands. You may have not known what to do with it, but you need to work with your hands more. And this other woman spoke up and she said, that's me. She said, 2 years ago, I've noticed I had so much power in my hands, I didn't know what to do, so I did Reiki. Well, part of her power, besides being able to do hands-on healing, Reiki, and things like that, is she also has power to move objects. She's got power in her hands. She could even stop bullets. So I told her, I said, you're going to come into even greater powers. So keep working with your hands. Then there was another person. I said, you've got a mediator on your team. And she's the one, or this person is the one that's going to be calming those that when you are to find the ones you're going to be helping in your mission, she will help. She will be able to be the mediator to calm them and to talk sense into them. And sure enough, one of the women spoke up, and it was her. So what was interesting is we found out that this is the start of their team, and they joined a group of experiencers. And this is what I'm asking people, please find an experiencer group in your area or a contactee group and find your partners, because you're living where you're living for a reason. Your partners are not far from you, so find them. And things will even get stronger. You can actually work together with activating even more powers as we continue this, testing one another and telepathically communicating back and forth and so forth, like that. There's all kinds of things we can do.
Okay. Are you familiar with Project Walrider?
I'm not. Tell me about that.
Okay. Does the name Murkoff Corporation mean anything to you?
Yes, but I don't know why.
Dr. Wernsnickel, I think is his last name.
Tell me about
it. Project Walrider was a Nazi super soldier alignment project where they were trying to create the perfect super soldier using extraterrestrial DNA, and typically the super soldiers would, once they get to the age of 21, they stopped aging. But you might have been at least part of that, the earlier projects, based on your timeline of your age and all, because this would have been back in the 1950s and so on. I'm assuming it's probably still going on now, but I'm assuming that's about when it began. So certainly maybe later on we can explore that a little bit more when you have some time.
The scientists that worked on that, actually, some of them were brought to America under Project Paperclip, and they worked with our government to make these super beings, and we've got them, as you know, here. But I have to tell people, I know that there are those that say the super soldiers are so strong, there's no fighting them. Well, why do the Syrian warriors of light, along with many other races of beings, came to Earth incarnated in human bodies because they have the power to handle these super soldiers, and they're going to be helping us. And all we have to do is our own, as far as protecting ourselves using our love and light and so forth. But one of the major reasons we're on this planet is that the reptilian draconian races that rule the matrix of Earth have kept their souls entrapped in the matrix. And now that we've got enough, we don't have as many as we were hoping, but we've got some of the humans that are ready for the ascension. Our job is to make sure they're not pulled back into the matrix and to get them out of the matrix, whether it's on ships, through a stargate, or whether they go to the fifth dimensional Earth, where it's like a step or a process of you learn how to live amongst other extraterrestrials in a fifth dimensional world where there is no fighting, there's no war, and where we honor and respect one another. So that's an important thing. Let's see, I guess that's about the best I can do right now.
Now you said that, why don't you talk a little bit about what's going on with your husband, because you said in 2013 he was working for a company making schematics, and then he was sent to an underground facility. Is that when you started being attacked?
Well, actually, I started being attacked before that. When I first started being attacked was when I came forward, when I finally started having conscious contact, and I came forward and began doing talks. And I put myself out there in the public, and some of my talks were on YouTube. I even had a woman call me about a little over a year after I did the one video or YouTube thing for Project Camelot. And this woman said, I need to tell you, I am not human. I live on Earth, but our race is the same as humans. And I was brought here so that I could observe to find out what was happening with humanity, how they were ascending, or their spirituality, how it was progressing, and so forth. But she was also mostly an observer because not all of the star people were ready to assist as much. I mean, they would assist some, but they needed to know if the humans, if it was worth coming here and assisting. Are there enough people ready for the ascension? And they finally determined there was enough. But she had to marry. I mean, this is what she was done, what they had her do. She had to find a man, a human, marry him and have children with him and be able to blend in. But she stayed off the grid. She married a wonderful man and doesn't have to work. But when she would call me, it would be on throwaway phones, because she couldn't dare they know what they do when they find out where these beings are living and how they're followed. And with me, when I came forward and started talking about who I was and that I was having contact with the beings and what I was learning from them, I was attacked a lot. And one time they tried to, the NSA has remote viewers, and when you were talking about my husband working on this job, he actually was doing the schematics for a power source that the CIA, NSA, DOD, and all those government facilities underground, they wanted something that would last for 100 years. And when he left out of town, of course, me and my big mouth, I would call people and say, guess what my husband's doing? You know, and I got myself in trouble because about 2 nights later, my house was surrounded by agents. And I was terrified. I hate to admit it, but it's true, because I sensed it. And I had 3 dogs at the time, and the dogs knew they were out there. And my one dog was a real fighter, but he was whining, and that was unlike him. So he knew there was a serious threat. My other dogs were whining, so I had locked all the doors. I had 7 doors in my house that led to the outside. I had to lock all of them, like it's really going to stop them, you know? And it was really stupid. And so I stood there, and I'm talking to my star family, and I'm saying, I'm so sorry. I'm not feeling confident that I'm strong enough for all those that are around the house. Could you be there in case I need help? And would you believe this? They actually said, go out on the back patio now and look up. I went out on the back patio. I live against the Superstition Mountains, and there above my head were 4 Galactic Federation ships, and they were white, with white lights oscillating around the bottom, and they were right over my house, and they weren't going to move until, and wouldn't you know it, all the people left. But they had actually, in, I think it was 2008, when I was visiting a friend in Kansas, and she also is a starseed, they had used a device to knock me out. And when I woke up, I had a lump on the back of my head and dried blood in the center of the lump. And my friend said, well, my God, it might be a spider bite, excepting it was in the winter and we couldn't find the spider. And I had a full-blown aneurysm within 4 days, and I was at home. I had already flown back to Arizona, and I laid down in the bed, and the pain was so bad as the aneurysm was about to erupt, and I yelled at my star family and told them, I said, if you want me to finish my mission, you better heal me. Instantly, I was out. I woke up maybe an hour or so later, and I was completely fine. Everything was perfect. The same thing in 1997 when I had a brain tumor secondary to the accident in 93. They took me on a ship. They took me up to Archangel Michael's medical mothership. And this is where we starseeds are taken when we have health issues that need to be fixed so we can complete our missions. So I was given a tour around the mothership and also shown how they work with frequency. So, they've been always helping me, but now it's time that I go back to the ships.
Do you still know how those technologies work? Could you work with a team of engineers, explain what you saw to recreate these technologies?
Well, it's interesting because there is like the bioscale feedback machine and the Reich machine, which are lower versions of what they use. They use this device, and when I saw them use it, for example, there were some women laying on tables. The women all had breast cancer. And so the star beings, ladies, would go over to each woman and place on them what looked like kind of a gray bustier over their breast. And I looked at I didn't know if this was Archangel Michael. I had no idea who he was. He didn't introduce himself. So I had to find out who he was by making a sculpture of him and having people tell me from all over their experiences with him. But what was interesting was it works with frequency. And this device would actually read the pattern, birth pattern of the frequency the person was born with. And what it did was the frequency would go through the body, and anything that did not match that frequency was broken down into minute particles that would then be excruciated through or released through the bowel or urinary tract. So when I woke up from being on that ship, I swear to God, it was as if I drank a gallon of water. I was in the bathroom and I couldn't believe I could hold that much water. And that's how I was getting rid of it. But what was interesting was I had a couple psychologist friends that were into this as well. And the one took a picture of my back because when I came back from the ship, I had a triangular piece of skin missing, and they said, we did not harm you. The skin was our way of testing to see if how your DNA is being activated. Isn't that interesting? So a lot of times the scoop marks that we get are ways that they can determine at what process of our activation in the DNA strand we are at. So they know how they can help us.
Okay, I was always under the assumption they take those scoop marks to make clones of us.
Some of them may, but also because there are, and we've got to realize there's so many different races. There are some that want to clone us, and those are the ones that want to use the clone to stand in for who we truly are because they don't want us doing our work. But for the most part, and I've had several people call me recently that have had these as well, they are also working on us getting us in better physical condition. And you may notice that your body becoming stronger, or some of us older people, we're all of a sudden looking younger, and we're feeling better. So they're working on us. I had one guy who called me up and he said, Cynthia, they came for me last night and they said, you've got to lose weight. The guy had gained a lot of weight, but he had like 6 different medications he was on for different diseases and illnesses he had in his body. And after the beings worked on him, the doctor couldn't explain why he had to take them, because he said all these conditions were completely gone and he didn't know what could have happened. And all he had to take after that was blood pressure medication. A lot of us starseeds have high blood pressure too, so it's not uncommon if you have high blood pressure.
So do you think they use a type of femto technology, some kind of biobots, and regenerate you by putting people in a tank of goo?
Yes.
Well, yeah, they do that.
They do. That's one of the things they use.
Well, what about like using telekinesis, putting their hands on people and regenerating organs that way?
Yep.
So it's more than just technology; it's also some of their abilities as well. When you go on these ships, okay.
Yeah, they use everything. And the other thing, when you talk to people that have said, I woke up and I was in this honey-looking gel, and there were sparks, like electrical sparks in it. That's also for rejuvenating. Primarily what it's doing is it's rejuvenating the major organs in the body. So we're all, those of us that are going to be staying here to work out the missions, where we'll be staying here long enough to where we're getting those that are ready for the ascension off the planet. Their bodies have been, they're rejuvenating the bodies. There are many of us, like myself, that have to leave. We go back on the ship because the best way we can serve is to also work with the starseeds. So part of my job that's going to be coming up soon, I'll be leaving Earth soon, and part of my job will be to determine when the starseeds need help, to determine what is the best way for them to get the assistance they need. If I go through the council, the alliance, also is it a medical need issue that they need help with? Is it they need to find another partner, or their team members, or whatever it is? Maybe they've been attacked and their power source has been taken from them. Then what we've got to do is we've got to rejuvenate their power source, get them back online. So there's a lot of things that we do that we have no clue, or had no clue, how important our mission was. We're very important.
So let's just say somebody's watching this maybe 10 years into the future and you're no longer here with us on Earth. Is there a way we could try to contact you, maybe through telepathy on the ships?
Sure. Actually, the other thing which I didn't know, when I made these sculptures, I thought I was just making them out of memory, and then they told me no. They have the aspect to help activate their DNA, the starseed's DNA. They also said, when you leave, it's like the sculptures are almost like a transmitter receiver, because they can communicate with me through them, and that whatever they, like if they hold them and whatever they say or think, it's like a direct, it's almost like a phone. But they were joking with me when they were showing me this, and it was like them picking up one of my little sculptures and going, hello, Cynthia, are you there? It was funny, but they were teasing me about that. But they said that they will be able to connect with me so I can help them. We've got others that as you know, that have already gone to the other side, but they had work to do. One of them was a guy that's a captain of a mothership, and he left about 5 years ago because already there were many of the rogue groups coming. And this is the other thing that happened. I didn't know who I was until I had surgery in July for a brain tumor. And then the council needed to tell me and let me know who I was, what I was here to do, and the importance of following up on things before I leave here. So I know that I'll be leaving soon, and it's okay. I'm not afraid whatsoever. In fact, I'm kind of excited because I can do more for them.
Um,
But yes.
do you think they gave you cancer?
Um,
The dark side, whoever these beings are.
Well, I've been told that they've been using, as you know, they used all different types of technology, psychotronics as well as microwave and so forth. And it may have been that they gave me cancer because um, just 3 months, I think it was 3 months, or 4 months later, it appears another tumor is growing in my head. And I've used every kind. I've used chemo, radiation. I used Protocell. I used cannabis oil. I'm using some other products that are natural healers. And the tumor continues to grow. So whether they are doing it to me, it really doesn't matter because maybe this is the way that I leave so I can go back into my body in stasis. Many of us have experienced, even if it's through a dream state, our true forms on the ships. In fact, I have a woman and her husband, and they have 2 children that are 8 and 10 years old, and all of them are healers. And when I spoke to the children, when they came out to visit me, I asked the children, what's it like when you go on the ships? Now, can you imagine these kids, 8 and 10 years old, saying, well, we're not in these bodies, we're in our real bodies. And I said, well, what do your real bodies look like? Well, we're blue. And these are a race of beings that are awesome. They're short, and they've got more rounded faces, but not like Zeta. And they've got black eyes. Well, actually, they're such a dark blue, they look almost black. And they've got like different colors in their eyes, like gold flecks or green flecks in their eyes too. But what they do is that the woman and her husband, she's primarily the one that goes on the ships more often. They have ships that are just for healing and for the starseed children and the hybrids. And their job is that when they have problems with them, they're taken up on the ships to do healings. And her kids say that they are adults. Even though they're in little bodies, like children's bodies on Earth, if you were talking to them, you would be blown away. It's like talking to an adult. Their knowledge and their love is so immense. They're just awesome. So we're finding right now, in the last few months, I have had so many parents ordering sculptures for their children, which you wouldn't believe they would do that, but the children need to feel like their family is with them, and that's what they feel when they have these sculptures. They communicate with them. And it's interesting how much the children love them, and they'll talk to them. And they even, one of the children, it's a young boy, I think he's 12 now, and his sculpture actually helps him, the Arcturian that's in it, helps him with his homework and explains things to him. And his mother's always saying it's so cute. Sit down and he'll be talking to it and then working on his homework. And she said he loves that. It's like his best friend.
Would you like to see the sculptures that I got from you?
Yes.
So this one is a mantis, a brown mantis bean, and you said some of the hybrids on this planet that are connected to this group, what they tend to, like one individual had arms that had hands that were doing this.
Yes.
Was this person like partially disabled? Some kind of
Nope.
no? Just,
Actually, he's a hybrid.
okay.
And I will be happy to introduce you to him. His name is Robert Fullington.
Okay.
And Robert, literally, he can take on the form of a mantis. And their mantises are phenomenal. Did you know that there's some what's called the black mantis coming in now? And people have called me or written to me and said, who are the black mantis? And should I be afraid of them because they're black? And so I got a hold of Jacqueline Smith, who also is a mantis hybrid, and Robert Fullington, and both of them said, these are the mantises that came in to transmute dark energy into light energy. So what they do is they go to people that maybe they have an attachment. They can release the attachment, absorb it, absorb the negativity and turn it into positivity, because the star seeds, a lot of them have had handlers that have kept them from knowing their true powers and who they are. So this will transmute all the negative energy that's attacking them. I actually made one for myself.
Do you think there's also like not just mantis beings? What about like giant cockroach type beings or beetle beings that are
Yes?
humanoid like and sentient, driving spaceships?
Absolutely. Actually, there's there's so many different races. You know who you need to get a hold of is another guy by the name of David Godson. David Godson has done over 9,000 drawings of different beings he's had in his life that have come to him and told their stories.
Okay, so this is a Zuma, a Zeta Zuma.
Yeah.
Then you put a little crystal in its eye over here. I think
Yes.
it's amethyst or ruby. But yeah, it's blue eyes. So these are related to dolphins. And so they come from aquatic world. But these are, I guess these are one of the species of what you would consider a gray. But grays come in these are not the typical grays, I guess,
right.
that are visiting planet Earth and do the abductions and so on. But yeah, so I just thought this was a very beautiful little sculpture you did here, and the way you painted it and all. So
I actually had a lifetime as a Zuma Zeta that I was allowed to remember. And one of the women that took classes from Dolores Cannon did a regression on me. And this is a woman that lives in England who happened to be out here visiting. And what was interesting was going back and remembering. And oh my gosh, how hard it is sometimes to leave that, because the Zuma Zeta, when you become what we would consider a human teenager, you no longer can remain a Zeta, a Zuma Zeta. You have to experience other forms so that you know when it's time to decide, when you want to become a master, when it's time for you to become a master, what you want to be a master in. So they have master Zuma Zetas also. But a person who has had many different lifetimes as different types of beings may say, I really loved being the Zuma Zeta because it was pure love. It was a fabulous experience. They're aquatic as well as they can live on land, and they're really neat. But the Zuma Zeta, I would have to say, is one of the things, or one of the beings that probably brings some of the most incredible love. Then I have never experienced so much love as I have from many of these beings. They're just incredible.
wonderful. Okay. How are we doing on time?
We're doing okay. I've got probably maybe another 10, 15 minutes at the most, okay?
Wonderful. So, why don't you talk a little bit about the future? Because you said that the councils have given you information about what the Illuminati or the Cabal is planning to do, and one of the reasons why you're talking about activating our abilities.
Right.
Can you go into that a little bit?
Okay. Well, when they first started showing me these, they showed me that well, number one, is about the children, protecting the children. But the other thing is that we have to, as far as right now, they're asking us that we need to immediately stop all the negativity, because they're saying even the negative thoughts, we have to catch ourselves at it. And I have to work on me a lot, because there's times when I get upset. I got to work on me. So we've just got to really work on that. But this is what's going to happen. The Illuminati has programmed not only the children, trying to take the powers from the children, but they've also been, they're the ones that are responsible. They find out, and they've known, it doesn't matter how much we think we can hide, they know who are the starseeds. They did time travel before we even came here. They wanted to find out what would happen in the future, who would be involved. So every one of us needs to protect ourselves. We really do. We can't say, well, yeah, they don't know me. Yes, they do. We need to protect ourselves. But they're telling us that these events that are happening, they're going to take us off the grid. And of course, we're going to have natural things occurring that will take us off the grid. But they were planning to take us off the grid before these other things happened, purposely, because they need to create a distraction for us, for one, and to create a lot of anger and resentment, because that also causes us even more problems. So they use mind control, as you know, and they have been using it. Like, for example, remember that guy just recently that was in Florida, and he was shooting people in Florida at the airport, and he said the CIA was talking in his head?
Yeah,
Well,
Fort Lauderdale Airport. Mm-hmm.
Do you know, I have had several people who have called me that are starseeds who have had mind manipulation, and one guy actually, and I'm so sorry to say this, he eventually ended up committing suicide because they messed with his mind so bad. So we've got to be cognizant that when we feel that they're getting in our heads, we have to send the white light and unconditional love through the same line, tube, whatever you want to call it, that they are sending us the frequency to mess with our mind. We've also got to realize that most of these things that are happening, school shootings, was pre-planned. These people were used. They find the people that are weak, that they can get into their heads to do this.
Well, do you think the Sandy Hook was pre-planned, or do you think that was a hoax? Sandy Hook, the shooting at the Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut?
I'm sure that was set up.
Okay.
It was all because they were showing me this.
Yeah, a psychic claimed that, first of all, supposedly this autistic child that shot up the individual at the school, but a psychic claims that some two individual black ops guys went in there and shot the people up in the school, and then they just hung out in a tree. So when all the first responders showed up, they just mingled with the crowds and left. So I'm not sure how they smuggled the weapons in, but I think maybe under trench coats. But essentially, yeah, it appears that we're being lied to about a lot. But hey, now you mentioned false flags, terrorism bombings, shootings in school. You talked about that. They're going to close banks. There's going to be food crises. And you also told me that I need to stockpile water.
Yes.
And how much water should one person have per household?
Wow. This is an undeterminable amount, because they are assuming that we could have a minimum of 3 days without any service. But from what I was shown, it would be lasting for several weeks. And the other thing people have to realize, this is not hopeless. Like some people have said, I just want to give up now. This is hopeless. How can we fight against them? And so forth. You fight using your love. You really do. And you cannot become, once you give in to the anger and the hatred and so forth, you become just as bad as those that are the ones doing this to us. So we can't afford to do that. We have to be above that. There's also going to be some natural things happening. I was told that a celestial body will be coming in and will be causing the planet to flip.
Or that Planet X?
That's what I believe it is. They called it a celestial body with other, and it's bringing with it other bodies. So it sounds to me like it's like a small solar system or a small system like a sun, maybe a planet or two and some moons and so forth. I really don't know, but I know that there is for sure an object coming in. We star seeds have been guaranteed to be taken off the planet. We don't have to experience it. The only ones that would be staying here are the ones that have agreed to stay behind for those that survive it. Okay? But we will be leaving. Most of us will be leaving. Some of us will be coming back.
Now, I suggest maybe having maybe 20 gallons of water per person. If it's for 3 weeks, 1 gallon a day.
Yeah, we're going to be stocking. Of course, we don't know for sure how many there's going to be. We're on a well, so we have 2,000 gallons in the well, and so we had to devise a way of pumping it without any electricity. Right, but we also have, and I recommend this, we have bought some plastic containers that hold a minimum of 100 gallons each. So I advise people if they can get these. I know they cost I think they're somewhere between $40 and $50 to buy them. But that would be a good thing to have on hand, but have it close.
Well, why not just fill your bathtub full of water?
Well, you can do that as well, but you also want to have some for, like, you're going to need some for cleaning, and then for drinking and for food and so forth. I also stocked up on a lot of those gas canisters, like camping. When you go camping and cook out camping, get used to that. Get all your camping supplies out. Get the things you need. Make sure you have lots of batteries. Make sure you also have the things that, if there's no electricity, to keep you warm, plenty of blankets on hand, and your medical supplies. Make sure you got plenty of medical supplies. That's important, especially for those that are on medicine. Now, I will say this, that the star seeds, of course, we're being activated to the point where physically, health-wise, we shouldn't have any health issues during this time when we're working our mission. Okay?
Some allege that there's giant floating ships that are going to appear in the sky, and some have actually seen them where people can enter them and get healed. Is this something that's probably going to transpire after this turmoil, or is this probably not going to happen at all? Or what's your thoughts on this?
Well, actually, there are people around the world already seeing them, and they are going to be coming in, especially after some of the changes. But you've got to realize this Planet X, Nibiru, whatever you want to call it, when it comes through and so forth, it not only affects our planet, all of the planets in the solar system, and then it affects those as it leaves our solar system. So we have been doing this. We've been doing missions like this where we have been in similar situations other times. So many of us starseeds have already done this, and we know what we're going to do. And when the time comes, we're going to remember. You know, some people get all hyped up going, oh, I don't know what to do, and I'm not sure. And I said, don't worry about it. When they activate your DNA with your power source, you will remember how to use them, and you will remember even more of what we are to do. We cannot allow ourselves to think, because we don't know exactly what we're going to do, that maybe we're not truly star seeds. because they want us to doubt ourselves. We have to stop doubting ourselves.
That's right. And since I'd like to comment a little bit about this so-called martial law period, there's an organization which wants to knock out the power grid through an EMP attack. It's a selective EMP which will destroy cell phone and internet communication technologies primarily, and also the electric grid as well. But the electric grid can quickly be brought back online, maybe in a week, but what you say, maybe 3 weeks, and they actually had the vacuum tube technology to install into the electric grid, and I'm assuming there's probably free energy technologies as well. Certain I guess you could call them benevolent groups within the secret government who are aware of this potential catastrophe. It's not, well, man-made catastrophe. I think there's a lot more about what might happen during that period, and I've talked about that in some of my other shows. I highly recommend you see some of the material with Peter, the Insider. I've got so many more questions to ask you, but I know it's been a while, and I don't want to drag this on too long. But could you please just comment? What is your website?
The website is ET Sculptors, plural.com, and I have a friend that also makes some sculptures. And I do want to say something too, that I'm making the sculptures more powerful now because people are reporting that they're going on ships fairly quick or having conscious contact almost immediately. In fact, some of the people that have ordered sculptures have written to me and said, "Is my sculpture on the way? Because it keeps talking to me telepathically." And it was funny because one of the women actually said, "I just got a telepathic message that my sculpture is coming today." And I said, "Well, it's not due to come until tomorrow." She calls me back and no, it came today. And sure enough, and they talk to the people, but they've got to realize this is their star family that loves them enough to want to be with them and assist them.
Okay, so you mentioned a story here how you look at the people's pictures and you can see what kind of sculpture they need. And some people need a Syrian, a Nephilim, and some need a tall white Zeta. Like this one client who was an internet healer, you said that he would do heal, and then a woman was dying, her organs were shutting down, so he turned back to his apartment. Okay, so the woman had emergency. Can you explain the story about the heart chakra that took him out of his body, took him to Texas?
Yeah, and that guy who lived in Sweden at the time, and he did healings over the Skype, and he also did hands-on healings for those that lived in his area and so forth. And a woman from Texas contacted him and said that her son had some real bad health issues. And I think he was a young adult from the way it sounded. Well, what happened was Mike said that he would be happy to heal him if she would, and he would do it through Skype, but she would have to go over to his house, and because she had one of those big cell phones that she could Skype with on it, and he would heal him through that. Well, what happened was he took off to go shopping one day, and that's when Nita's son ended up in emergency. And when Mike got home, his girlfriend told him that he had to heal Anita's son because he was in the emergency and they didn't expect him to live. And Mike had gotten so ill, forcing him to go back home, and otherwise he wouldn't have known about this. And he said, "I can't, I'm too sick, I don't with me." And all of a sudden the tall white Zeta telepathically said to him, even though it was his girlfriend's tall white Zeta, it said to him, "Hold me to your heart chakra." So his girlfriend handed him the tall white Zeta. He held it to the heart chakra. Immediately he was not only healed, he was taken out of his body, And the tall white Zeta was teaching him how to, like when we do out-of-body travel, how to go to the young man. The tall white Zeta took him to the young man and took him inside the young man's body. Now, what he didn't know was that the young man had already died. And Anita was, at that time that this happened, she was in the waiting room, and the doctor had just told her that they did everything and they couldn't save her son. And all of a sudden, another doctor runs out and says, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe this. You've got to come back here." Her son was sitting up. He'd been dead for, and I'm not sure if it was around 7 minutes or so that he had been dead. And he's sitting up on the bed, and he's hungry. And so the doctor said, "We can't give you any food until we run the tests on you again." They ran the test, and all of the organs that were damaged and that had failed were completely healed. And Mike said it was the first time that he had ever experienced healing somebody by going into their body. So the beings want us to remember who we are and our true powers. So sometimes they will have us do things that we didn't know we could do so we can remember how to do it. But I thought that was such a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and he was all purple. His organs were all purple. You
Well, I don't know about the color of his organs.
Okay.
I know that they had all shut.
All right. Well, I think this might be a good place to stop. Is there anything else you wanted to mention?
Well, if anyone needs help, to please email me. And what we're doing right now, according to what the council has said, is we're gathering together groups around the world so that all starseeds can find their partners and so forth through these groups. And that's what we're going to be doing, is putting together a website with all this information, and we're also going to be doing training videos and so forth.
Okay. And so how could you give people your email address for individuals who would like to help assist you in that project, or maybe even ask you questions?
Sure. My email is T as in Tom, Crawford, CRAWFORD, 1949 @gmail.com.
Okay, great. Thank you, Cynthia. And any other final comments?
Just that I love all of you, Starseeds, and I'm so proud of you. And I want you all to know that even when you come through some rough times, we're here for you. We're all here for you. So I want to help as many as I can, and there's a lot of us that are working at this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cynthia. And listeners, I encourage you to visit supersoldiertalk.com to see this interview, as well other interviews as well, and some more information about super soldiers, mill labs, the ET, and other agendas going on this planet. And also be sure to visit Neological Tech to support the work that I do financially. And hopefully in the future we can get on the ships and see you. So I'm assuming that they got a clone body of you, and you're going to just be transferred into it?
I have my real body. These physical bodies are for the third dimension only. But when we're on the ship, we have a different body. My body is much younger. I'm one of those people like you that when we're on the ship, we could be thousands of years old and still look 30. We live a lot longer than humans do.
Yeah, well, my physical vessel on the ship is 10 to 12 foot tall, so I might be a little scary for most people.
Yeah, they'll get used to it though. But that's awesome. That's awesome.
Okay, and do you appear human?
Pardon?
Will you still look the same? Beautiful as you are?
Oh, thank you. I look a lot younger for sure, but I have kind of long blonde hair, and fortunately, I'm thin. I don't know how tall I am because I never really thought about that, but when I was on Ashtar's ship, it was funny because I had contacted Ashtar because I was having a lot of health issues at the time and with eating. And it's amazing because when we're on the ship, we can't even imagine our bodies because we're in our bodies in stasis. But he was helping me also to determine how to change my eating so that the frequency would flow better through me. A lot of us that are having problems with our stomach, we've got to change because we do need to get our energy up.
Okay, great. And I'm going to include the transcripts from our last interview, which we had a little malfunction there, and I wasn't able to publish it on the link. And also, if you're still around, if you're going to be, how long do you think you're going to be with us on planet Earth?
Well, I think I'm going to be here, and I could be wrong, but right now it seems like, from what I'm gathering, that I should be here until around June.
Okay.
And I don't know. I mean, they may extend it depending on what's happening. But otherwise, if some of these situations happen, I'll be taken off sooner. But I will still come back to the Starseed so I can help them.
Okay. Well, if the audience members like to ask some questions, maybe we can do another follow-up a month from now or so, and we can go from there. Maybe have some new information as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
Good.
Cynthia. Have a lovely day. And thank you, listeners. And until next time, bye-bye. Please consider supporting Super Soldier Talk by purchasing your own Neo Meditation device. Your Neo Meditation device will help you reduce stress, integrate trauma, enhance intuition, enhance clairvoyance, and enhance creativity. Get yours now at www.neologicaltech.com.